Hello, everyone, and welcome to FxWB New Beginnings Podcast. Hope everybody had a great day today, and we are here ready to serve you guys with all the goodies, everything wellness. Okay, all right. So, let us welcome everyone this afternoon or this evening. Hi, Mary. Thank you so much for joining. We have a full house today. We have three beautiful ladies plus me. And I am going to go with those that I'm seeing on my screen. We have Miss Beth Stiers. We have Miss Cathy Boone-Black. And we have Miss Holly Frierson. Got it. And myself, Michelle Bailey. We here at are currently talking to you from Functional Wellbeing New Beginnings Podcast. This month we talked all about community and community in different forms, whether it was community with a gym, with a gym family, or having the idea of forming a community with a wellness experience like what Miss Holly normally has in her field and scope, as well as Miss Cathy meeting up with persons, helping them with trauma relief. And we have Miss Beth. So people might be saying, I can't remember Miss Beth. Hello, the month of February, we talked all about marriage and relationships. So Miss Beth, she's been here with us for a while, and we are so happy to have you all this evening on FxWB New Beginnings Podcast as we get ready to talk about community and well being. More so looking at trauma, mental health, stress, all those good words we always talk about.
Mhm.
So, welcome, ladies. Thank you for being on here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You are welcome. And hello, Instagram. So today is August 31st, and it's my home country, Trinidad and Tobago. It's their independence, 61st independence. So I changed really quickly into one of my gears from Trinidad and Tobago. So happy anniversary, 61st independence anniversary to my homeland, Trinidad and Tobago. Love you. Happy to always represent my country in some way or the other. Yes, I'm American too, but hey, I'm Trinidadian first. Trinity to the bone. So I am so happy to know that my country has got 61 years under its belt as an independent nation, Twin Islands, and we are I am glad to be able to share my culture with people around the world. So
Great.
happy independence. Yes, happy
Yeah.
independence to Trinidad and Tobago.
Mm.
And that is a community. And we have lots going on in our community because it's very multicultural. And that has helped me to be able to live anywhere because you get to learn so much about cultures and you have an open mind. And as you see behind me, this affirmation, I've been using it pretty much all year round. I am open minded to deeper healing. I am open minded to deeper learning. I am open minded to be transformed. Behold, I am made new. So I love this affirmation by Ivana Van Sant, Iana Van Sant, and it really tells me that we have to be open-minded to be able to grow or to live. And as a community, one has to be open-minded because we are all different. We are all individuals, but we may have similarities in terms of what we like to do. And I think these ladies here fit that example perfectly because we are all different, but we all have similarities and like-minded um, influences out there in what we do, whether it is through health and fitness, whether it's through helping people cultivate their purpose, whether it's also looking at relationships, community building, understanding your environment in which you're in or what you was in before, right? Or I'm always talking about finances as well, because that is also a part of enhancing one's well-being. And that's what we are all about. So tonight, thank you again so much for joining us here on Functional Wellbeing New Beginnings Podcast. Let's introduce our guests tonight. Holly, please introduce yourself and let's know, where are you coming from and what are your creative gifts that you like to share to the world?
Greetings, everyone. My name is Holly Frierson. On my podcast, I go by Holly, I Am Queenship. And Holly, I Am Queenship. We do Queenship Quarters podcast, which is a podcast for our queens out there. Queenship is the air, the energy, and the vibrations of a queen. It is not a trend. It is your divine essence. And Queenship Quarters is not the individual place that you're sitting in. It's every part of your being, mind, body, and spirit. So that's Queenship Quarters. And I'm so sorry, but I am on call, and that's my client calling, and I might have to go help deliver a baby. So I'm so
That's
sorry.
all right.
I'm part of Queenship Quarters, Queenship Legacy LLC. I'm a full spectrum doula as well. And I have to bow out. I'm so sorry, but
Okay.
I have to go.
That's all right. Yes, and as Ms. Frierson said, she is a doula and she's on call and she has a baby to deliver. And I'm so happy you took your time to be on here.
I would love to do this again. Thank you for having me, and we can do this again. Again, my apologies, but I have to go.
Okay. That's all right.
All
you
right,
go deliver that baby.
Holly.
God bless.
Peace and blessings.
Yes. Yes. All right. So we just got a touch of what a community is about, right?
Yes.
We all have a part to play. We all have something to do in that community, whether it's to help somebody deliver a baby. Hello, that's a big deal, right? It's a big deal. We have to understand our part to play in our community. Yes. So Miss Beth, you tell us a little bit more about your part you play in the world.
Okay. I am a mental health counselor and I work on the west side of Indianapolis. My name is Beth Stiers, and I had worked with marriage and family with Michelle a little while ago. We did that. Some of the other specialties I have are grief and PTSD. I'm trained in EMDR, and I use that quite often. My favorite probably is the grief and the PTSD, both of those. So I have two children. I actually have one in Uganda, and I have one that's here. And the one in Uganda has married a Ugandan man and is a missionary. And the one here is near where I live and has moved back from New York City, where he was a lawyer there. And he and his wife are now close to us. So that's my favorite. So
yay. Thank you for sharing so much, Beth. Share with us, Cathy, a little bit more about you.
Sure. My name is Cathy Boone-Black, and I own Indiana Integrative Hypnosis, and I help people understand why they do what they do. I specialize in anxiety and trauma. I got into it because I grew up with panic attacks and was led by God to a psychiatrist back in the early 80s at the IU Med Center, who introduced me to hypnosis and taught me self-hypnosis. And it was really the first dot that was connected on my healing journey. And then I got into a cognitive behavior wellness group that was teaching me that my thoughts were creating the feelings inside. So that was the second dot connected. And I started getting better after suffering from age 6 years old on. And I just feel like God brought me through all that to help other people. And I feel like that God sends me people today who need my help, because I don't advertise, it's all referral. And so I work with not only in hypnosis, but I also work with a tapping sequence. I work with NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, and I also work with a brain balancing technique. And the DISC assessment is a behavior assessment. And so I specialize in anxiety and trauma, but I run the gamut of, if somebody's got an addiction that they want to give up, whether it's chocolate or wine or cigarettes, I work with that too. I also work with I'm certified in a program called Prepare for Surgery, Heal Faster, where I do a hypnosis program with a client 2 weeks before surgery. And there is so much research around how that helps them go through surgery, how it helps them heal. And I am a living testament because I've used hypnosis for surgery since 1988 and wouldn't even think about having surgery without it. And then I'm also a certified doula. I also do doula work, and I take my relaxation techniques into the labor and delivery and help moms have a better, easier time of delivering. I am in
Wow.
my office is in Carmel, Indiana, but I do a lot of virtual work too throughout the country.
Nice. All right. So you see that, right? We have two doulas on that were on this live tonight, and we understand the gamut of work that you both do, as well as Beth, you do a lot as well in helping persons with their mind.
Mhm.
Right.
And this is not just talking about the word mindset.
Mhm.
We talking about the mind, the brain,
Right.
and understanding how to use
Yeah.
your brain to help you get through with life.
Yes.
Because we
Absolutely.
talk about so many different aspects of life right there: birth, marriage, friendship, relationships, even death, because Miss Holly does she's a doula for death as well. I think that's what you call it, a doula, right?
Death doula.
For that as well. So it's all gamuts of what you have happening to you in your whole life cycle. You can get help. Now, I want to make sure that people understand this. This is not only for women.
Right.
Right. Definitely.
So, ladies, if you have guys listening on, please make sure they're listening too, because it is not just for women need help with mental health.
Right. Men too.
Right.
Men too, because we all go through mental health issues in different ways.
Right.
Right. And I want you to expand a little bit on that for me, Beth.
Okay.
Talk about when you are helping others, for example, in a counseling session, whether it's a marriage counseling session or even just simple relationships, because I know you also deal with kids as well.
Yes,
Yes.
we do. Yes.
Yes. So to give me examples of how we can understand what somebody does, a therapist does, to help someone with their mental status.
My goal would be to help the people to understand themselves and the feelings and the thoughts that they have and why they have the responses that they have. I am a Christian counselor, so I am a counselor who is a Christian, and in that fact, I will use their faith if they choose to do that. And I have many men that come in and they are just kind of confused on how come their wife is this way or how come their wife is that way, or how can I have a better time or relationship with my children? My parent is dying. How can I handle that? I will have all kinds of areas that I will work with. And I do have court systems and court cases that I work with also. So in that, I work with both men and women, but it's more learning about yourself, your mental health, and your understanding your feelings, and then putting that together with your whole body system. Because if one person in the system changes, then everyone else is going to change in some way, good or bad. So.
Right. And I remember when we spoke of that in the month of February, we were looking at relationships. And one of the things that we recognize is when you have one individual being counseled, you would prefer both individuals or all parties involved to be counseled because it helps with the clarity and even finding solutions. Yes?
Right, if possible. Because if I hear one side of the story, I won't know what's going on the other side. So I do much of my practice is individual therapy, but it does help to pull someone else in just to understand the whole situation.
Good. So, Cathy, I saw you nodding a lot. So tell me what resonate there with you with regards to in conjunction with what you practice.
Yes, when Beth was talking about people getting to know themselves and their feelings and all of that, that really resonates with me because I feel like that the more we know about who we are and how we tick and those others that are around us and how they are and how they tick, that's why I brought the DISC assessment in years ago when I first opened my practice, because it was a big game changer for me, learning more about myself and learning about my family members who I had, you would have issues with. You didn't understand why they're doing like that. I would never do it like that. And then when you understand that the behavior styles in all of us are different and we all hear and use different words. And when you can learn to communicate with others the way they want to be communicated with, the families, businesses, it just runs like a well-oiled machine. So when Beth was saying all that, I'm like, yes. I really get into getting back to the emotional reason in the subconscious mind of why somebody's doing what they're doing or why they're feeling the anxiety, and help them understand. I do a lot of inner child work with my clients, and help them understand that, our parents were doing the best they could with the knowledge they had from how they grew up, and their parents were doing the best that they could. And it goes back and back and back. The problem is that children, especially from, really third trimester, when your mom's carrying you, your brain's already developed to where you can hear outside of the womb and you can already take in what your life's going to be like. And because you're connected to mom through the umbilical cord, if mom's living in a really stressful situation, she's got lots of those stress hormones coming in, baby's getting it too. And so some of my clients come in and they're like, oh my gosh, I've been stressed out since I was come out of the womb. And it's like, yes, because tell me about your parents. What was the situation for your mom? So from really third trimester to 7 years old are the real formative years where a lot of the patterns and programs are set in the subconscious mind that really run your life. And so because for that first 7 years, you're really living at a theta brainwave where that's the hypnotic suggestibility brainwave. The brain doesn't fully develop until we're about 27. But those first 7 years are really, really important. So, how many of you have heard, Johnny's mom and dad got divorced, so Johnny thinks it's his fault. Now, 9 times out of 10, mom and dad didn't tell him that. But because when a child doesn't like a situation or how they feel in a situation, especially those first 7 years, their little subconscious mind takes in, well, it must be you. Must be something wrong with you. And that's not right at all. It takes in a wrong message. But because the child can't tell anybody that, they can't explain that, nobody really knows that that's what happened. I worked with a gentleman who was a Catholic oops baby, and his mom and dad used to tease him that he was a mistake. And he's like, "Oh, I know they were, teasing." Guess what? Didn't know that subconscious mind. And so it really affected his life. So we had to go back, and the adult him worked with the little boy him and got that straightened out. So that's what I love about what I do, is when people can walk out of my office after several sessions and go, you know what, I don't hate my parents anymore, or I understand now where they were coming from.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you mention that, it just tells me that we have to be cognizant of all that has happened to us.
Yes.
Right.
And it's not just in the home, but at school,
Yes.
in the workplace.
Yes.
And as you said, children are really very bright, young individuals.
Right. And very influential.
Yes.
Very easily influenced.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
So when we think of, okay, your child shows fear, and you're trying to figure out why is this happening, and they might just say it's just because they're afraid of something, but really and truly it could be because mommy was showing fear in the subconscious, and she transferred that to her kid, who now experiences it both subconscious and consciously by doing it. And you're trying to figure out, well, why are you afraid? It's not their fault they're afraid. It's because what was going on with mommy, maybe.
Mhm.
And then that transfers through their life. And if they don't understand what was going on, then they would go through their whole life dealing with this or not dealing with it. And then they need help, because now they're in a relationship and they don't know what's wrong. Why is this happening? What's happening to me? And they didn't deal with it before. So sometimes for me, so a lot of people say, you tell your child some kind of things. I'm like, yeah, because I know he understands exactly what I'm saying. They'll say, but you don't tell a 7-year-old that. I'm like, you're telling this 7-year-old because I know I want him to be starting to connect the dots. So that when he gets 21 and he want to get married, he knows what's going on in his brain. So he could connect the dots. I think everybody should be doing that. And not be afraid, because I've realized for me, unfortunately, it's been recognized in this culture here in the US, a lot of people hide things from their kids. Because they think they're just too small and they don't need to know these things. And I'm thinking they need to know, because everything has a consequence. And then it appears as though I'm a harsh person, but it's not that I'm harsh. I just like people to know the truth. Right. So, for example, that example I'm bringing up there with a kid and Cathy, you could also think of it when you have a kid. Okay, now becomes 21, finishing off school or in college, even making decisions there, and then they want to get married. How would you help a kid that's trying to find themselves when that happens?
For me, what I end up doing is we look at how their upbringing, what is their family of origin, what has happened to them. I do an inventory and take an intake and just work through all of that, ask them what their childhood was like, ask them what they remember, what kind of traumas did they have, so that we can start to focus on areas and break down the areas to pull out what is really happening for them. So they may have a parent that is frightened of storms or something like that. And so they become frightened of storms when maybe the parent really wasn't frightened of storms, but liked to watch storms. That was kind of like my mother. She wanted to stand at the window and she watched them because she loved the lightning. But in my mind, as a child, she was scared to death of them because she didn't want us near the window. Well, that is because she didn't have a chance to get us all away if there was a problem. So if a tree came through the window, she could run, but we couldn't, and she couldn't grab us all. So, it's
right.
we take that on as our parents. So I ask for about traumas. I ask other things. If it's been, there are some things when you mentioned parents telling their children things, I think we better clarify in the fact of there are some legal things that happen too, where parents aren't allowed to tell their children certain things, especially if they're going through a court system.
Mm-hmm.
And
Got
so
it.
there are court papers where they're not to be telling their children about that, or that is to be private just between the parents or whomever the judge says. But that is for the benefit of the child, because typically it's a situation when parents are doing a lot of things to try to get back at each other or very upset with each other. And then that's going to be worse on the child. So there are some things they shouldn't know. And I come across those cases all the time, hearing they know about the court document. Why do they know that? Well, the other parent's wanting to get back at one of them. So you just have to be careful with that.
Yes. And Cathy, for you,
when it comes to life experiences, yes, I do believe that the children shouldn't be hidden from those life experiences. Maybe that's a better way to put it.
Right. Okay. And I'm glad that we have this spin here where we're looking at things from a court, government, legal system versus just a private person coming to see you. Cathy, for example, for you may not deal with a person having to deal with divorce or court system and all of that. How would you approach helping a young man or woman that may have experienced fearful trauma, for example, and now it ready to get married and having issues with relationships? How would you help them?
Well, what I do in intake, just like Beth, I really try to find some history. And it's like I tell my clients, it's not about to beat up anybody, but we're like detectives. We're going to peel the layers of the onion back to see where this might have started. Because I think so many people have a connotation of, well, you know, I remember when I first started therapy, my mom did not want me to go. And, you know, that was back in the early 80s when therapy was for people in the institute. So it had a bad connotation anyway. And I remember the first thing she said when I called her when I got home, she goes, well, what they say I did. So I think that's where people think that, you know, because none of us are perfect. We're never going to be perfect in this world until we get to heaven.
That's right.
We're all going to make mistakes and we just learn from them. And so I, you know, just tell my clients, we're just going to do this history because we're trying to find, you know, some of the reasons why you might be anxious. And so we go through, I have a evolution of emotional issues that I go through with my clients. It's a form that I came up with that shows people how we have problems. And so they understand that. And then I always go through the disc at the first session. So they understand the different behavior styles. And a lot of my clients, when they're coming to me for stress and anxiety, we go back through that because it helps them understand, because 9 times out of 10, they've grown up with a father or a mother who is a very high D, which is dominant, quick to anger, quick to temper. What are you doing? What's going to happen? And they learn to walk on eggshells. They learn to be people pleasers and perfectionists, and they're just a nervous wreck. So that's where I kind of start, because if things are triggering them now, we go back and try to find those triggers and heal it as we go on their timeline.
Right. So I want you to just describe not describe, but at least name the DISC, DISC, what they stand for, the acronym stands for.
Sure. The D is dominant, and I work with an assessment called taking flight. So it equates it to birds. So the D is the eagle. They are direct. They are results oriented. They get a lot of stuff done, but they're also very, when they are under stress, they become very headstrong and dictatorial, and they're big and they scare, especially children. You know, if the mom or dad is that way, they scare the kids. Their worst fear is of being taken advantage of. And so they kind of live in that world.
Right.
Then we have the I, which is the influential, which is represented by a parrot. and you think of a parrot, colorful, loud. They're just so fun and optimistic and enthusiastic. And their worst fear is of somebody not liking them. And then we've got the S, the steady, which is represented by doves. Doves are usually in pairs. They're quiet. They don't like conflict. They want everybody to play nice in the sandbox. Their worst fear is loss of security. And they usually, they'll swallow down resentment, because if somebody's hurting their feelings or making them mad, they don't want the conflict, so they don't say anything, so they swallow it.
Right. Okay.
And then we've got the C, which is the compliant, and that is represented by an owl. And you think about an owl can turn their head, the wise old owl can turn their head almost 365 degrees, because they're looking and making sure everybody in their kingdom's doing what they should do, because the owls are analytical. They love the data, and they're rule followers. They want everybody to follow the rules. They don't love conflict, but they will have conflict if somebody's not following the rules. They love a routine, and when their routine is out of whack, they get kind of out of whack. Their worst fear is of being wrong. So a lot of times owls get into analysis paralysis, and then they look lazy. They look like they don't care. And it's not that at all. They just got such a fear of doing something wrong. They don't do anything at all.
Got it.
So yeah, just
okay. I hope everybody wrote that down. Let me see if I can put it in the chat here. So no, Cathy, can you type it in the chat? Would you be able to type in the chat? No, you can't, right?
Type in the chat what? You mean what else I said?
The DISC. Yeah.
I'll type that in, and then they can go on and just Google it, and they'll be able to find.
Yes, thank you so much. The reason why I'm asking for that, because it helps open up people's mind and understand, okay, now this is an assessment form, guys. And every assessment has its different what would you use? Different wordings that they would use, but it's still a way of kind of helping understand why you're doing what you're doing.
Yes. And I wrote in here, it's DISC, but the assessment that I'm talking about is called Taking Flight with DISC. And they can go on. There's all kinds of, not only with this, but you go on YouTube and you'll be able to find all kinds of things about DISC. It's just interesting to me.
Yes. Beth, I've seen you shaking your head. So you use also an assessment program as well, right? An assessment tool. And I remember you talking about EMDR. What is EMDR?
EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So we take the negative belief someone has about themselves and try to replace it with a positive belief. So what we will do is we will take a memory they may have or a picture that is stuck in their brain that they cannot get unstuck. And so in order to do that, we simulate REM or dream sleep. It is different than the hypnosis that Cathy does. And I believe I read that Cathy does EMDR also. I'm not sure.
Yes.
No.
You don't?
No, I do tapping.
That's right. You do the tapping, which tapping came out of the EMDR, I believe. So the EMDR is we typically process during our REM or dream sleep. And if we are stuck with a trauma and we can't process it in our REM or dream sleep, then it stays there for us. And so we'll ruminate on it, or it can stay in our subconscious, any number of things. So what we actually do is they will either follow my fingers. Some therapists use lights, and some people use the tapping. I tap on myself if they need that rather than the visual with my fingers. So we basically do a back and forth, and someone is thinking about that trauma that they had, and we take that negative belief and any of those feelings they have in their body, whatever it is, and we try to connect all of those. And typically it'll work about 90% of the time for most of my clients, where the trauma becomes less intense and they know it happened. It doesn't take it away, but it is no longer something that is stuck in their mind. So they can move on.
Good. So we have two tools here, guys, but guess what? You need help with this. This is something that you want somebody who is an expert in these areas, or at least been studying or been practicing this, to be able to guide you in using these tools. Remember, when we think of this, it's all about ways in which we want to help ourselves get out of, or get out of being stuck in a bad place. Because
Right.
if we are not feeling the right way, or if we cannot be able to relate to others because we are stuck in a negative or hurtful place, then we not really doing good for the community in which we're in, or the relationships that we're in. We are trying now to remove that negativity, to be able to be that light for somebody. And as we said, nobody's perfect. I know I ain't perfect. I know that. My son could tell you that. My husband could tell you that. I am not perfect.
Right.
I'm real, but I'm not perfect. And sometimes my realness might be too much for some people. And I
Right.
get that. I understand that. And if I could do that, I think we all need to try to do that, to be able to have a coexistence, if you want to say, if you know what I mean, to be able to live.
Right.
Because we may not be of like-mindedness, but we might have things that we need to do together. So you might be in a community and you like, I really don't like these people, but I need to get this job done,
Right.
So for you to be able to get this job done, you have to find ways to balance off who you are with the other people that you're working
Right.
with, for instance. Right. So I am so happy you guys are able to share all of this with us this evening, because at the end of the day, it's for all of us to have the community, the people out there, to have ideas, or have the opportunity to talk with someone, to get help, seek help. Because this, Holly, I know Holly mentioned before we came on air, we need to understand this is not just for one culture or one racial ethnicity, it's for everyone.
Right.
We all need to help each other be better so we could all live as one.
Right.
Yes.
And another thing I remember talking with Beth in February, and even with you, Cathy, we talked about, when we think of a community and when we think of using these practices, it is not just on a mental, or it's not just a physical or mental or just a book sense, or I'm a therapist. It's more so I'm a Christian, as Beth said, or this is, I'm using this because God gave me the opportunity to go through it. As Cathy said, she went through trauma, got help and seek help from it, and now is able to help others through her experience. That is what life is about, being able to understand that God gave us. Sometimes we don't want the things happening to us, but you know what? At hindsight, when we look at this, it's like, oh, that's what you was trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
When we in the storm, we don't want to deal with it.
No.
Hindsight, it's like, this actually is what you're trying to do. Oh, thanks God, I guess. So we really need to understand that this is all about trying to help us be
Right.
the best we can be out there. All right, so I got the disc taking flight. I'm just putting in what Beth and Cathy sent here. All right, so if you did look at our podcast this week, Cathy was able to demonstrate tapping, which was one of the modalities that you use. Tell us or mention for us at least 2 or 3 other modalities that you might use in your process of helping others, feel better, get rid of fears. Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. One of the modalities I use is called NLP, and it's neuro linguistic programming. And that is neuro is the brain, linguistic is language, and it's the language of the brain. And it's little exercises that you can do that I can teach my clients to where you feel like you have some control. When we're feeling stressed out, when we're feeling angry, when we're having these negative emotions, a lot of times, like Beth said, it's a thought that you just can't get out of your brain, or you don't know how to get out of your brain. And so little exercises are something that people can use to break a pattern in the brain. It's disrupting the neural pathway in the brain. And so those are little exercises that I can teach people. And then the other one is called Psych K, and it is a brain balancing technique. And the premise of Psych K is when you've had some kind of trauma or long-standing anxiety, it gets stuck in one of the hemispheres of the brain. We have a left and a right, and a logical and emotional. And so when we're in whole brain balance, the energy of the brain goes like a figure 8, and it's using the logical and the emotional to deal with situations or thoughts. But when there's some kind of trauma or longstanding anxiety, that energy gets disrupted, and it's only using one side of the brain, and it's not in whole brain balance. And we know that we got this whole brain balance because if somebody has a stroke on the right side, it's the left side's affected, and vice versa. And so Psych K is about balancing the brain and getting it back to balance. And most of my clients, when we use it, they can actually feel that shift. And really, really neat. So those are the other 2 besides tapping and disc that I use a lot.
Right. Good. So, Beth, I know when we spoke before, one of the things that you shared, especially in relationships, understanding where you fall in the family unit.
The family system, yes.
Yes. Where you fall in that family system, one can have different issues happening to them in a relationship because of probably I was a firstborn. So
firstborn, secondborn. Yes.
Yes.
Your place in the family makes a difference as to how you respond to things.
Right.
So
now I brought that up because I want people to understand that nothing is wrong with you.
Right.
It's just understanding where you fall in the whole pattern of things. And when you get to understand where you are, then you can seek help in being able to deal with others who might be a middle child or the last born, because if you marry somebody who was a firstborn versus an only child,
yes,
we have button heads going on there, maybe. And when people, from what Cathy was saying, I'm just kind of linking it because sometimes we have traumas that may have occurred as a child. And if we are stuck in that place, and then we have a relationship where we have 2 different family of origin, is it that what we call it?
Yes,
family of origin. Yeah. Then that being stuck, if you don't know that that is happening, when you are in a relationship, it's hard to be able to be in that relationship. Yeah.
We're going to
Beth?
fall back on what we've learned and what our experience has been. And until we are able to learn more, or there's no right or wrong in how somebody acts in their family of origin, it's just, it may be helpful to know others are similar to me as a firstborn, or similar to me as a middle child. And that may be why you relate to some of your friends differently, because of where you are in your family order. So, and if you take a look at your parents and their family order too, you have 6 kids and you've got a middle child, and then that middle child has only one child, then you've got an only child. There are going to be some conflicts, because that one that grew up with a lot of kids is going to want to know why you can't share, why you can't do this if you're an only child.
Right.
So, and it's not wrong. It's just you're not sure. And it's a lot of learning and experience.
Mm-hmm.
So
that is something that I tend to. I don't have an only child, but we talked about if you have a child born 5 years apart,
yes, in between a split.
It becomes an only child.
Right.
Right. And you really do have to teach that child, okay, you do need to share. You do need to learn how to deal with other kids and relate to them. And I think if you as a parent don't teach that kid that, then we have a problem. But then the parent have to realize, okay, I wasn't an only child, so I don't know what it was like to be an only child.
Need to understand.
So they may not know how to teach them.
Right.
And
so
then
that
you
parent may need to learn or have experience from someone else that has been an only child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, ladies. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I want to bring this home because I want you to understand, when we look at mental health, it's not just from on the surface. It is something, it's your whole life. Yes. And for us to be able to relate to each other and to be mindful of each other's and what others think of each other, and understanding why we do what we do, then we can be able to live better together. And I'm going to bring it home with the spin of your health, because if it is you are not mentally healed or mentally balanced, we have a lot of things that can be happening to us physically, because the brain is connected to the gut,
right,
and vice versa.
Right.
And you may be experiencing a lot of medical issues, hormone imbalance, thyroid problem, diabetes, high blood pressure, brain fog, weight gain. These things happening, they are just symptoms of a bigger picture, of a root cause. And not 9 out of 10 of the times, it is what's going on in here. And one of the number one factors that bring on some of these symptoms is stress.
Right.
Yes.
I remember doing another podcast, and the American Stress Association, they pretty much linked from your head to your toe many different symptoms that can be happening to you because of stress.
Right.
And if we do not help our mental health, we could try to fix everything else. We're not going to get that. So it has to be a symbiosis. We have to learn how to do, yes, we want to do the health part, We want to exercise, we want to eat right, but we also have to deal with levels of stress. We also need to balance our mental health. And in this life today, we have a lot of issues going on, whether it's stress at work, stress at home, there stress on the road. That's my biggest issue. Stress on the road, driving. But if we don't know how to deal with it, then we are going to have a lot of symptoms of various things. And you may be working out every day, eating healthy food, but it's not really helping you. I always say sometimes all healthy food is not healthy food for you. Because if you're having medical issues, if you're having stress, if you're having brain, mental fog situations, then you're going to have a problem in the long run. So we are here trying to help you understand that your well-being is not just one thing. It's 5 different things we're looking at. You have to use everything in total to become a healthier person. Hence the reason why I had these ladies on here, because they help us talk and figure out a little bit more about mental health. And I want to thank you, Beth and Cathy and Holly, for coming on here and sharing a little bit with others how we can help ourselves. And Beth, can you mention again where you're located? And then Cathy, you will do the same, please.
I'm at Eagle Creek Counseling Services at 38th and 465. The address is actually 3935 Eagle Creek Parkway.
And I am, my website is indianaintegrativehypnosis.com. And I am in Carmel, Indiana, but I also do a lot of virtual sessions also.
Thank you so much, ladies, for spending time with FxWB New Beginnings Podcast on a live. I know a lot of people are going to see this and they would want to have as much as possible some type of information from you guys, to reach out to you guys. Okay, Mary's asking, how do one get to find a counselor or therapist? So Beth, I want you as well as Cathy to put in the comments for me your information if you can.
Okay.
Because what you have to do is you have to contact these people. They can direct you in terms of what you're looking for or what type of therapist you're looking for, so that you can get the help that you need. Okay. So thank you, ladies, for joining. And this is not going to be the last. I am definitely going to tap in with you all again, because I am very grateful for you sharing your insights with me and the community and the public at large, because this is the only way we could grow and become healthy, right? Is by working together with each other to be able to live better.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Thank you all so much. So I will put this information in here for you guys of Cathy's information. Let me copy and paste. So, then I am going to put in Beth's information for you guys. Thank you, ladies, for sharing. Do you want to add anything before we leave, Cathy and Beth?
I think for me, I just like to tell people you're not broken. You're doing exactly what your subconscious mind thinks you're doing to stay safe from all your experiences from 3rd trimester on. So, just really understanding who you are and how you tick. So I always like to bring that into people.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Cathy. Beth, you want to say anything?
Well, actually, there was a question over here that someone was asking how to find a good counselor. And
Yes.
that's what she wanted to know. So I just wanted to address that one. And that was I would actually interview several counselors. You can also do it by word of mouth. If you know someone, ask people at work who they have seen, who they've liked, who they've not liked. Look in a certain area if you want on the west side. Look at different places on the west side that people have gone to. You can check with your church. Usually the church has a good referral base. Schools will have a good referral base too of counselors that they trust. So, and it may not be somebody that fits for you, but you can interview a therapist if you choose to. Most of them will
Okay.
allow that. So,
Mhm.
okay.
Good. Thank you, ladies. And guess what, guys? If you need a therapist and it's not in Indiana, as Cathy said, she does online virtual meetups. And I have another therapist who I always like to go to as well. His name is Peter Gordon. And it's a guy, so I know I have some guys out there.
Mhm.
Peter Gordon, he is also a very good therapist as well. And you can find him on Facebook and Facebook and Instagram as Peter Gordon, Dr. Peter Gordon. And he has been on FxWB New Beginnings Podcast as well. We were talking about cultivating your purpose, and he will be back. I want to get the resources for you guys because we all need the help wherever you are in the world. And he also does virtual sessions as well. So we need to share as much information as we can, share with others, let them get the help that they need, let us all get the help that we need so that we can live better with each other and grow with each other. So thank you again so much, Beth, Cathy, Holly,
You're welcome.
for joining
Thank you
me
so
here.
much.
Yes, on FxWB. We are so grateful for you sharing today. And as I said, this is not going to be the last time we're going to be on here. We might be in person. You know me, I always have something up in my sleeves
Wow.
other than my arms.
Uh-huh.
All right. Blessings to everyone who listened to this podcast live as well as the replay. We are grateful for you guys being on here, and we thank you so much for your feedback. Have a great evening.
Thank you,
Thank
Michelle.
you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.